Who do you think is the strongest in Marvel? I don't know. The Marvel Universe is enormous, with hundreds of superheroes and countless kinds of power. And honestly, I'm not a Marvel fan, so I can't say for sure. So then, who do you think is the most interesting? The most interesting might be Iron Man, Tony Stark. So he's the one who impressed you the most? Not exactly. Tony is the most interesting. But the one who impressed me the most is Spider-Man. Spider-Man, Marvel's lone wolf. Welcome to Unsaid Truths, where the stories that linger begin. Spider-Man first appeared in Amazing Fantasy number 15, published in August 1962. He immediately became a headline phenomenon, and one of Marvel Comics' most beloved characters. Unlike the perfect heroes built around idealized archetypes in DC Comics, Marvel's heroes often carry more varied backgrounds and a more human, everyday texture. After many classic superhero icons, the legendary writer Stan Lee came up with the idea of a teenage superhero. He passed that idea to artist Steve Ditko, and from the very first sketches of Spider-Man, something was already in the air: resentment and loneliness. Peter Parker is a frail, shy kid living in a small corner of New York City with Uncle Ben and Aunt May. His parents died in an accident when he was very young. A life that was never easy, combined with early upheavals, shaped Peter into someone withdrawn and guarded, a boy who often looked weak and felt even weaker inside. Peter is hardworking and he loves books. From an early age, he shows real intelligence. He attends Midtown High School. But Peter doesn't have many friends, and he's constantly bullied by bigger, meaner kids. Why do they bully Peter? Because he's quiet? Because he's kind? Because he's different? Because they enjoy planting fear in someone smaller than them? Or maybe it's simpler than that. They want to prove their strength by crushing someone who won't fight back. The most compelling thing about Marvel's characters is that they always carry the breath of their era. Marvel's artists often sketch a miniature America of that time: hidden corners, schoolyard gangs, teenage criminals, fragile people being pushed down. And Spider-Man's pull began right there, in those earliest lines on the page. Because sometimes, readers saw their own lives inside the story. Spider-Man's superhero template is different from many other superhero narratives. It isn't only flashy spectacle. It isn't only noble battles for lofty ideals. It also contains ordinary, painfully human material, inner conflict, private fractures, and a quiet depth of compassion hidden underneath. Peter Parker carries a haunting guilt over Uncle Ben's death, because there was a moment when he let a criminal slip away after a robbery, and that same man later took the life of the person who raised him. Unlike many heroes, after nights chasing criminals, surviving disasters, and bringing down dangerous groups, Spider-Man returns to the life of a hard-working student, and later, he becomes a broke, underpaid photographer, earning scraps by taking pictures of his own alter ego, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is one of the few Marvel heroes who keeps his true identity hidden behind a mask. People only know Spider-Man, brave, powerful, almost heroic every night. But they don't know the real person behind it, Peter Parker, quiet, ordinary, and painfully human. To sell papers, the newsroom where Peter works smears Spider-Man's image. They turn him into a troublemaker, someone the police are told to watch. And Peter has no choice but to keep taking photos that feed that narrative, just to earn enough to care for an aging Aunt May. Peter Parker and Spider-Man are constantly surrounded by injustice and tragedy. And what becomes Spider-Man's signature, in the end, is always the tearing conflict inside him. Peter doesn't have many friends, and eventually he even loses his closest friend, Harry Osborn, after facing the Green Goblin, who is also Harry's father. There are even moments when Peter has to give up the girl he loves most, because the responsibility that comes with his power leaves him no clean, painless choice. That's Peter, and maybe he will always be that way, because the greater the power, the heavier the responsibility. People say Spider-Man was born into the fate of a lone wolf. In 1963, when Marvel began building a shared universe and formed the Avengers, Spider-Man stayed on the outside. Not because he wasn't enough, but because the character was written as someone who has to survive by handling everything on his own. And that's fine. Spider-Man still fights every night, alone and brave. Spider-Man is one of the rare Marvel characters who hides his true identity, known to the world only through a mask. Through countless changes, Spider-Man has fought alongside the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, the New Avengers, and even the X-Men. But the instinct to work alone never left him. Spider-Man has always had his own road. After upheavals and crisis in the 1990s, Marvel sold the film rights to Spider-Man to Sony, with a price often mentioned at around $10 million. Once again, Spider-Man had to fight somewhere else, far from his superhero brothers, as a way to bring in money and keep the ship called Marvel afloat. Only after Marvel Studios and Sony reached partnership agreements could Spider-Man come home in a new chapter. And Spider-Man Homecoming 2017 is the milestone most often associated with that return. Spider-Man is loved not only because of his hardships, but because of the steadiness of someone who grew up from a teenage hero into an adult who can carry weight. Spider-Man can be hated. He can fight in isolation. He can swallow the bitterness of letting go of the one he loves. But Spider-Man will never abandon his ideals. And that's why he remains one of Marvel's most unforgettable characters. Being a real man, sometimes, isn't about wearing a sharp suit. It isn't about money, status, or relationships that make other people admire you. Being a real man, sometimes, is simply living the way Spider-Man lived. Carrying everything alone, enduring in silence, without noise, without complaints, without blaming anyone. Because being a man, at times, also means accepting the life of a lone wolf. No applause, no need to be understood. Just don't let yourself collapse. So often, people expect you to be strong, so you're not allowed to be weak. People expect you to be steady, so you're not allowed to hesitate. People expect you to be the support, so you're not allowed to fall. And when everything collapses, work, love, family, honor, you still have to swallow your tears, stand back up, brush the dust off, and keep walking. No one asks if you're okay. They just want you not to be a burden. It's a harsh truth many grown men have tasted, once or for an entire lifetime. Just like Spider-Man, a young man forced to face losses beyond imagination. He loses Uncle Ben, the one who taught him the greatest lesson. He loses society's trust when even the people closest to him can turn away. He loses a normal life, as if it's simply assumed that he is the one who must sacrifice. And Peter Parker still chooses to keep fighting. Not because he doesn't feel pain, but because he understands. Some pain is necessary to grow. Some wounds never heal, but they harden the heart. Some loneliness must be learned. You can't always wait for someone to come and erase it. A real man isn't afraid of failure, isn't afraid of falling, isn't afraid of the world's cruel words. The one thing he fears is becoming useless, abandoning his ideals halfway through. Living like Spider-Man means accepting that people may never understand why you do what you do. Accepting that no one may ever know what you've sacrificed. Accepting that you may have to watch the person you love walk away, and still smile and wish her happiness. Because sometimes you understand, real love isn't about holding on. It's about letting go when you must. It's about placing someone else's safety and happiness above your own heart, the way Spider-Man did. You can fight to keep her until the end, but when she truly wants to leave, let her go. It's okay. Keep moving. If your backbone remains, if your will remains, then your future remains. Living like a lone wolf doesn't mean you must always be cold, silent, and need no one. It means learning to stand alone in the desert without despair. It means healing wounds you never speak about. It means that when the whole world turns its back, you still believe you're walking the right direction. It means that no matter what anyone says, your heart doesn't rot. A real man is someone who faces the darkness inside himself. No avoidance, no pretending it isn't there. Someone who can say, I was wrong, I was hurt, I wanted to give up, but I still didn't choose to quit. Spider-Man isn't perfect. Peter Parker is even less perfect. And yet, that imperfection is exactly what makes people understand him. He isn't a god living above us. He's an ordinary person in the middle of life, like us. He can love, he can hurt, he can be afraid, but he still chooses to act. He still swings through the city when he's hungry, when his heart is shattered, when the whole world misunderstands him. And that's what turns him into a symbol, not because he never falls, but because he falls and still stands back up. And maybe all of us have been there. We failed. We've lost what we thought would be ours forever. We've stayed awake through long nights, and we've asked ourselves, did I choose the wrong path? If I hadn't pushed so hard, would it hurt this much now? But then I realized, being a man doesn't mean you always get the right to choose what's easy. Sometimes you have to grit your teeth and do it anyway, even when it costs you. Sometimes you still have to smile, even when something inside you is screaming. Sometimes you have to hold up a world that's collapsing, because maybe there's no one else who will do it for you. Not everyone has the courage to live like Spider-Man, but I believe that in every seasoned man, there's at least a trace of Peter Parker. Quiet sacrifices no one sees, lonely nights no one knows about, efforts no one recognizes, and failures you have to pull yourself up from, alone. And there's also a small belief you keep tucked inside your chest, that if you stay resilient, something good will come one day. It doesn't have to be dazzling, just enough to prove that everything you've lived through wasn't meaningless. Being a real man isn't about never being wrong. It's about facing your own mistakes. It's not about never feeling weak. It's about knowing when you have to be strong. It's not about never being lonely. It's about learning how to stand back up inside the loneliness. Like Spider-Man, he doesn't fight for glory. He fights because he can't look away when someone needs help. Being a real man is living like that. Quietly persistent. No show, no need for praise. Just coming home at night, looking in the mirror, and being able to say, I did the right thing. I didn't quit, and I'm still me. If one day someone asks what it means to be a man, maybe I won't rush to talk about success. Maybe I won't rush to talk about money or trophies. I'll just point to Spider-Man and say, that's the kind of man I want to become. A man who can love, can hurt, can fail, without ever losing himself. A man who doesn't live to be remembered, but lives for an ideal, even if no one remembers him. A real man, quiet, solitary, and unbreakable. Because in the end, you don't need to swing across the New York skyline or fight supervillains to be a hero. In real life, there are men living like Spider-Man every day. No one knows their names. No one remembers their faces. But day after day, they still carry the whole world on their shoulders. A father doing hard labor under the sun, hauling cement with cracked hands, then coming home smiling, buying his kid a small treat, even when his wallet holds only a few coins. A driver pushing through the night to send money back home for his mother's hospital bills. A student juggling 2 or 3 jobs while studying just to lighten the burden on parents back in the countryside. A husband who lost his job but still leaves the house every morning pretending to go to work so his wife and children won't worry. Men who have never been applauded, yet never once complained. If Spider-Man is a symbol of responsibility and sacrifice, then ordinary men out there are the real, living embodiment of it. They don't save the world, but they keep a home from falling apart. They don't stop criminals, but they shield the people they love from storms. They don't have armor, but they stand in front of life's sharpest blades with their own bodies. And every time they fail, they stitch their faith back together, stand up, and keep going. Though no one may see it, and no one may ever acknowledge it. So if today you feel lonely, if you feel like the world has turned its back on you, if you're carrying a pain no one knows about, don't blame life. Don't crumble. Because that might be the moment the strongest part of you is showing itself most clearly. And like the words carved deep into Peter Parker's heart, the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. Thank you for staying with this podcast until the end. And now, goodbye for today. I'll see you again.